Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about strength, dignity, and resilience, we often think of leaders and public figures, but true strength is most visible in the quiet moments, within the family, and in the values that are passed from one generation to the next. Today, I want to share with you a story that is not only about a first lady, but about a devoted mother. Melania Trump has stood gracefully in the world's spotlight while protecting, guiding, and nurturing her son, Barron, with extraordinary care. This is not just their story, it is a reminder to every parent, every young person, and every dreamer that no matter how overwhelming life may seem, it is family, values, and resilience that build true character. If you listen closely, I promise you, by the end of this speech, you will discover lessons of courage, inspiration, and purpose that you can carry into your own life. So stay with me, and let's uncover the remarkable journey of Melania Trump and her son, Barron. When we look at the life of Melania Trump, what often stands out first to the world is her grace, her elegance, and her composure under the most intense spotlight imaginable. But when you look closer, you see something far deeper. You see a woman who has chosen to embrace her most important role, not in front of cameras or at global events, but within her own home. Her role as a mother, and it is in that space away from the speeches, away from the politics, away from the headlines, where Melania Trump has built a foundation of strength for her son, Barron. Parenthood is not easy. In fact, it is perhaps the greatest responsibility any of us can hold. Every decision, every word, every moment has the power to shape a child's future. Now, imagine carrying that responsibility while the eyes of millions are watching, while every move of your family is discussed, analyzed, and sometimes criticized. That is a pressure most of us cannot fully imagine, and yet Melania handled it with the kind of quiet determination and protective love that has allowed Barron to grow into his own identity with dignity and confidence. Melania's devotion as a mother was never about the public display. She did not parade her son before the cameras or force him into the limelight. Instead, she gave him something far more valuable: the gift of privacy, the gift of normalcy, and the gift of time to develop as a young man without the weight of public expectation pressing down on his every move. In a world that often pushes children of public figures into roles they are not ready to play, Melania's choice to guard Barron's childhood is both rare and remarkable. That choice tells us something powerful. It reminds us that real love is not about recognition. Real love is about sacrifice. It's about making decisions that may not always be understood by others, but are rooted in what is best for the ones we care about most. Melania has shown us that a mother's strength is often invisible to the outside world, but it is deeply felt in the heart of her child. When Barron was younger, she often spoke about how important it was for him to know his roots, his culture, and his family values. She wanted him to understand the world, yes, but also to remain grounded in who he is. She taught him to respect others, to value education, and to always remember that success begins not with fame or wealth, but with character. These lessons, quietly and consistently shared, are the kind of lessons that shape a person for life. Think about what that means. In an age where distractions are everywhere, where young people are pulled by trends, technology, and pressures that can overwhelm them, Melania focused on teaching her son the timeless values of respect, resilience, and responsibility. She taught him that before you can lead others, you must first lead yourself with discipline. She taught him that before you can stand tall in the world, you must stand firm in your own beliefs. She taught him that before you can succeed outwardly, you must succeed inwardly by knowing who you are and what you stand for. And while these lessons may have been spoken to Barron, they echo to all of us. They remind us of something universal, that the strongest foundation any of us can build whether for our children, our families, or even ourselves, begins with the values we hold in our hearts. What strikes me most about Melania's approach to motherhood is the balance she embodies. She was not afraid to step back from public duties when her son needed her. She made it clear that her priority was to be present in his life, to be there for the everyday moments, not just the big milestones. She understood that success in life is not measured by how much attention you receive, but by the depth of the relationships you nurture. Her commitment is a lesson to every parent, every mentor, every leader. You can be ambitious, you can have dreams, you can carry responsibilities that reach across the world, but none of it is truly meaningful if you neglect the people who depend on you most. Melania reminds us that being strong in the public eye means nothing if you are not first strong in the private circle of your family. As Barron grows older, the results of her influence are becoming clear. You see in him the confidence of a young man who knows he is supported, the composure of someone who has been raised with intention, and the strength of character that reflects the love of a mother who never wavered in her devotion, and that is what makes Melania's role so inspiring, because she is not only the first lady of a nation, but also the first example of love and guidance in her son's life. That is a title no one can take away, and one that carries a legacy far greater than politics or headlines could ever record. Her story shows us that leadership begins at home, that the values we pass on in our families ripple outward into the world, and that the quiet strength of a mother can shape not only the life of a child but the future they go on to create. So, as we reflect on Melania Trump's journey as a mother, let us also reflect on our own lives. Who are we guiding? Who are we protecting? What values are we instilling? Because in the end, it is not the applause of the crowd that defines us, but the lives we touch and the legacy we leave within our families. And that is the true power of Melania Trump's story, a reminder that the heart of a mother is the greatest force of strength in this world. As we turn our attention to Barron, we begin to see the quiet results of years of love, discipline, and guidance. Growing up is never simple, but growing up in the public eye brings challenges that very few people can ever truly understand. The weight of expectation, the constant observation, the comparisons, and the pressures, they can be overwhelming even for the strongest of adults, let alone a young boy. And yet, Barron has walked through those years with a calm composure that reflects not just his upbringing, but his own emerging character. From the earliest moments, it was clear that Barron would not be shaped by the spotlight. Instead, he was allowed to grow into himself at his own pace. There were times when people wondered why he wasn't more visible, why he wasn't placed in front of cameras more often. But that choice was deliberate. It was a decision to allow him the time and space to discover who he was without interference, to form his own thoughts, his own personality, his own strengths. And now, as he grows older, we see a young man who carries himself with both humility and confidence, a balance that is rare, and a balance that speaks volumes about the foundation beneath him. Every stage of his life has brought new challenges. As a child, he had to learn what it meant to live in two worlds, the private world of family and the very public world of attention. That balance is not easy. Most of us learn about ourselves in quiet, private spaces, but Barron had to learn in a life where privacy was limited, and every step could become a headline. Yet even under those circumstances, he has shown resilience. He has shown the ability to remain centered, to remain steady, to remain focused on simply being who he is. That quality is something we can all learn from, because life will always bring challenges, whether they come in the form of personal struggles, professional obstacles, or the opinions of others. What matters is not whether the world sees us, but whether we remain true to ourselves as we grow. Barron's journey is a reflection of that truth, that no matter how intense the pressures may be, the ability to remain grounded, to remain authentic, is the key to becoming strong. And what is most inspiring is that Barron has done all of this without seeking attention or applause. In fact, the world has often noticed his silence, his privacy, his ability to step back rather than step forward. But sometimes it is in that quiet strength where the greatest lessons are found. We live in a culture that often celebrates noise, visibility, and performance. But Barron reminds us that character is not built in public displays. It is built in private choices. His willingness to walk his path without demanding the spotlight is a reminder that true confidence does not shout. True confidence simply exists. As he grows, you can see how those lessons have shaped his presence. He carries himself with maturity beyond his years. He has learned how to stand tall, not because he seeks attention, but because he understands who he is. And that is perhaps the greatest gift he has received from his upbringing, the chance to grow into a man who knows his own worth, regardless of the noise around him. For young people especially, his journey is a reminder that growth is not about fitting into what others expect of you. Growth is about discovering your own potential, nurturing your own talents, and learning to walk your own path with courage. It is about knowing that challenges will come, criticism will come, and pressure will come. But if you remain grounded in who you are, nothing can take away your strength. In many ways, Barron's story is still being written. He is still young, still learning, still stepping into the future that lies ahead of him. And that is what makes his journey so inspiring, because it is not about a finished story. It is about the process, the unfolding of a young life shaped by values, resilience, and the ability to remain true to oneself. His growth shows us that greatness does not appear overnight. It is formed slowly through years of choices, through quiet lessons, through moments that often go unseen by the world. We may not know what path Barron will ultimately choose, but what we can already see is a young man who is prepared for whatever comes his way. His journey reminds us that the greatest strength is not in being perfect, but in continuing to grow with dignity, with character, and with humility. And that is the story of Barron Trump, a young man growing steadily, gracefully, and authentically into the person he is meant to be. When we think about resilience, most people imagine moments of great struggle, dramatic setbacks, or overwhelming challenges. But the truth is, resilience begins long before those moments ever arrive. It begins with the values that are instilled in us when we are young, the lessons that guide us when no one is watching, and the strength of character that comes from being taught not just how to succeed, but how to endure. And in the story of Melania and Barron, it is impossible not to see how family values have formed the foundation of their resilience. Family values are not just words we speak or ideals we write down. They are lived out daily in the small choices we make. They are passed from parent to child through consistency, through example, and through love that is not shaken by circumstance. Melania understood this deeply. She knew that no matter how overwhelming the world outside their doors might become, the home she created for her son had to remain steady, secure, and nurturing. Resilience is not about ignoring challenges. It is about facing them with dignity and strength. For Barron, the world around him has always been one of immense pressure. Yet, because of the values instilled in him, he has been able to navigate those pressures without losing himself. Respect, humility, and responsibility, these are the cornerstones of his upbringing, and they are the very things that allow him to remain strong in moments that could otherwise be destabilizing. This is a reminder to all of us that resilience is not something we suddenly find when life becomes difficult. It is something that is cultivated every single day. It comes from families teaching their children to respect others, to be disciplined in their actions, and to remain grounded in what truly matters. When those lessons take root, they become the quiet strength that carries us through storms. The values within a family also serve as an anchor. They remind us of who we are when the world tries to pull us in countless directions. Barron has grown up in a world where countless voices could have tried to define him, to label him, to tell him who he should be. But because of the grounding influence of his mother and the values she emphasized, he has learned to stand firm in his own identity. That is the essence of resilience, not bending under pressure, but holding true to what you know is right. We can all relate to this truth in our own ways. Every one of us has faced moments where the opinions of others seemed louder than our own inner voice. Every one of us has felt the temptation to stray from our principles when the path of least resistance seemed easier. But resilience is the ability to stay true, to stay aligned with the values that define us, even when it would be simpler to follow the crowd. And it is not just about personal strength. Resilience is also about the strength of relationships. Melania's relationship with Barron has always been rooted in love and consistency. Through that bond, she has shown him that he is never alone in his journey. That kind of support builds confidence, it builds courage, and it builds a sense of security that allows a young person to face the world without fear. In the end, resilience is not only about standing strong on your own. It is also about knowing you have people who will stand with you no matter what. This is the gift of family. Families teach us who we are, they remind us of what we believe, and they give us the courage to rise when life tries to push us down. Barron's journey shows how essential those values are, because they have allowed him to grow into himself with steadiness and grace. He has not needed to chase validation, because he was raised with the understanding that true worth comes from within. He has not needed to seek approval, because he was taught that respect is earned through actions, not appearances. And he has not faltered under pressure, because he knows that resilience is built one choice at a time, one lesson at a time, one value at a time. This, too, is a lesson for all of us. We cannot always control the world around us. We cannot decide when challenges will come or when life will test us. But we can control the values we choose to live by. We can control how we treat others, how we persevere, and how we remain committed to what truly matters. And when those values are strong, they give us the resilience we need to rise above any circumstance. The story of Melania and Barron is not only about a mother and son. It is about the universal truth that the values we plant within our families grow into the resilience that carries us through life. It is about the understanding that no matter who you are, no matter what pressures you face, the strength you need begins at home, in the lessons you learn, and in the love that never wavers. And that is why family values are not just important, they are the heartbeat of resilience. When we look at the lives of Melania and Barron, it becomes clear that their story is not only about a mother and son navigating extraordinary circumstances. It is also about the message their journey sends to the next generation, to young people searching for their identity, to parents striving to raise their children with intention, and to families everywhere who wonder what truly matters in a world that often feels overwhelming. The next generation faces challenges unlike any before. Technology has connected us, but it has also created constant comparison and relentless pressure. Social media magnifies every flaw, every mistake, and every insecurity. Young people are often told who they should be before they even know who they are. In that kind of environment, it takes courage to stand apart, to remain grounded, and to grow with authenticity. And that is why the example of Melania and Barron resonates so deeply. Their story shows us that strength is not measured by how loud you are, but by how steady you remain. It shows us that success is not defined by popularity, but by character. It shows us that even in the glare of the world's spotlight, it is possible to hold on to dignity, to privacy, and to the values that matter most. These are lessons young people desperately need to hear today. For those who are still growing into themselves, Barron's journey offers reassurance. It reminds them that it is okay to take time to grow quietly, to not have every answer figured out immediately. It shows that you do not need to chase every trend or prove yourself to every person in order to be worthy. Worth is not given by the world. Worth is discovered within yourself, nurtured by the values you live by, and strengthened by the love and guidance of those who believe in you. For parents, Melania's example is equally powerful. She reminds us that no matter how busy life becomes, no matter how demanding our responsibilities may be, the greatest legacy we will ever leave is the one we shape within our families. Children do not remember the titles we hold or the recognition we receive. They remember the time we give, the lessons we teach, and the love we provide. Melania's devotion shows parents everywhere that raising a child with values, respect, and resilience is one of the most meaningful contributions anyone can make to the world. And for all of us, their story is a call to remember that the future is always built by the next generation. The choices we make, the values we pass on, the examples we set, these are the building blocks of tomorrow. If we want a world filled with dignity, with strength, with compassion, then we must instill those qualities in the young people who will one day lead it. That begins in homes, in schools, in communities, and in the everyday conversations where values are taught not by words alone, but by the lives we live. The story of Melania and Barron is not one of perfection. It is a story of intention. It is about a mother making conscious choices to guide her son through a world filled with distractions, and about a son growing into himself with grace and composure, despite pressures that could easily overwhelm. That intention is what makes their example so inspiring. It is a reminder that none of us can control everything about the world around us, but we can control the way we show up for those we love, the way we guide those who depend on us, and the way we carry our values forward. Imagine a generation that grows up with these lessons at its core. A generation that values respect more than recognition, character more than convenience, resilience more than instant success. Imagine young people who understand that true leadership is not about demanding attention, but about serving with humility. That is the kind of generation that can transform the future. That is the kind of generation that will carry forward the strength and dignity we all hope to see in the world. And so, when we reflect on the story of Melania and Barron, we are not just reflecting on their lives. We are reflecting on the responsibility each of us holds, because the next generation does not simply happen. It is shaped day by day by the examples we set, by the values we uphold, and by the resilience we encourage. If we want young people to be strong, we must show them strength. If we want them to be compassionate, we must show them compassion. If we want them to lead with dignity, we must live with dignity ourselves. The truth is, every one of us has the power to inspire the next generation, whether it is through our children, our families, our communities, or simply through the way we live. That is the enduring lesson of this story, that inspiration does not come only from those in the public eye. It comes from every home, every act of guidance, every moment of resilience. And that is why the story of Melania and Barron is not just theirs. It is a reflection of what is possible for all of us when we choose to live with purpose, to lead with values, and to invest in the future by investing in the next generation. The greatest legacy we can leave is not what we accomplish for ourselves, but what we inspire in those who come after us.